Hey Faction, I'm back with a fifth edition of Fit-Biz Thursday. This week's video is titled Business 101 for Fitness Professionals, and the concept was spawned from a question posted by Kirk Adams in the open forum, where he specifically asked, I don't know shit about the day-to-day running of a business. Any suggestions on how to start learning the basics? I'll start by telling you that you don't need to partner with someone like myself to be successful, but what you do need is at least a baseline understanding of some accounting principles, marketing strategy, maybe leadership or organizational behavior type concepts. And this might sound like it's entirely classroom based, but it doesn't need to be. I'd say one of the most common questions I'm asked in the industry is, was getting my MBA worth it? And the answer is typically no. It's not that I'm disappointed with my experience, but my takeaway was that I learned everything I needed to know in my undergraduate business courses, and ultimately the MBA was great in the sense that it serendipitously led me to where I'm at today because the timing aligned with Eric Cressy wanting to launch a business right alongside my graduation. But most importantly, it taught me the importance of networking skills and allowed me to build and expand my network, and then hammered home the details of some of the most important basics that are going to be consistent in my business life regardless of whether I'm an entrepreneur or I'm working for someone else. I can tell you that there is kind of this concept of a self-administered MBA that I've come across that I think all of you guys could benefit from, and that's what we're going to cover today. I look at it as kind of a three-prong approach, with the first being consumption of readily available already published content, which is typically free or the cost of buying a book. The second category being a brief period of classroom style learning, and then the third would be a concept that some of you might know as fitness tourism, which is going to involve getting out into some other fitness facilities and seeing how they operate. So let's take a look at each in some more detail and see how it goes. So the first part of the self-administered MBA concept we're discussing here would be the consumption of readily available, already published material. I think you could categorize this as how I specifically learned today, and I think the primary takeaway is going to be that if you rely entirely on other fitness professionals to educate you on the ins and outs of business, and you stay within our tight little bubble that is the fitness industry to learn, you're going to be going nowhere fast. And you're going to see that I don't gather any of these insights from within the industry, within the exception of maybe the occasional Business for Unicorns blog or a Pat Rigsby podcast. But for the most part, it's books and it's articles on the web where I'm continuing to fine-tune my craft. First things first, I'll tell you the three books that I reread once a year just because I found them to be particularly impactful for me. First was So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, which is a reminder how important it is to take pride in your craft regardless of how exciting it is. And that means that you don't need to be enamored with chasing your dream all the time if you could possibly be the best accountant or the best social media strategist or the best sales executive, whatever it is, be the best at it. And this book does a really nice job of hammering that home. The second book is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. You've probably heard me recommend this before, as I'm preaching about it all the time, but it's essentially a series of lectures that Peter Thiel gave at Stanford in an entrepreneurial studies course that he's taught over the last number of years. And it's the closest thing I've seen to an MBA in a book, and I really enjoyed it. And the third is Talk Like TED, which is a book that's somewhat geared toward improving your presentation skills, but ultimately I think that everything we do, whether it be coaching athletes or selling fitness services, my job, yours, whatever it may be, comes down to performing in a sense. And Talk Like TED is a fantastic resource for helping you identify the shortcomings in your content delivery strategy and improving your skills in front of an audience, in front of a camera, in front of a client, whatever it may be. So that's the third and probably my favorite of the three I reread every year. Next, let's talk about my daily web consumption. Every single morning when I wake up, I hit the same websites and cover their homepage start to finish. So it's Forbes, it's Bloomberg, it's Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Inc. magazine. I love Seth Godin's Daily Brief blog. And it's not that it's revolutionizing the way I run my business, but it is constantly introducing new concepts and tweaks and ways that I could reconsider my approach on the basics of business. And I'd imagine that all of you have at one point or another asked yourself questions like, how do I do a profit and loss statement, or how do I structure a marketing plan, and different basic business concepts. And honestly, all of these resources are available on the internet free of charge with a brief Google search, but the key is understanding the resources that you can trust. And something as quick as typing in marketing plan and then the word Forbes is going to give you a very thorough breakdown in layman's terms of how to do these things. So don't make the mistake of thinking that you need to attend 4 years of school or get some sort of graduate degree to get answers to the most basic things, and you often don't need to outsource them. So start changing your web rituals as far as how you consume business content today, and you're going to find that there's just so much out there that provides fantastic value. The next piece of this puzzle is what I dubbed initially a brief period of classroom style or classroom-based learning. I think it's important that any gym owner or someone who's managing and operating a facility has a basic understanding of certain principles, primarily that being accounting. And what you may not realize is there are two types of accounting courses you could take. The first being financial accounting, which is essentially what your accountant does for you, and the second would be managerial accounting. Big, very important lesson here that Mike Conley's posted on the forum before, and that's that you need a good accountant. Under no circumstance should you be doing taxes for a business or a growing fast business, trying to understand tax code, trying to understand what the IRS wants to hear from you. It's best that you pay for that service and find a professional to take care of it. Managerial accounting is a really useful skill for you because it allows you to manage the day-to-day flow of your business, make risky decisions, understand how you want cash to move in and out of your business. It allows you to make projections, and you can gather this information, I would say first and foremost, by taking a class, because I think that it's very difficult for you to understand a concept like a revenue recognition principle simply by reading an article on the internet and not having a professor or a peer in front of you to bounce questions off of and make sure that you're crystal clear on how these cash flow analysis or profit and loss statements work. And a class is the way to do it. There are two ways to get into a classroom environment. You could sign up for a course in an online format. I don't think that's optimal in my attitude, but you could certainly do it. So University of Phoenix or something there that will administer homework assignments and require that you stay accountable. Or you could take an actual class, and that could be at a local community college. I know here in Boston, I've taken courses at the Harvard Extension School, which costs a couple $100 and gets you into a really traditional college learning environment. You could also reach out to a professor at a local college or university and request the opportunity to audit a class. I had a number of people auditing classes during my undergraduate and graduate business programs, and that's really just you saying, hey, I'd like to sit in on lectures, I'd like to learn what the students are learning, but not be held accountable to testing and not be issued credits at the back end. But let's be honest, you're not looking for college credits. That's not what's going to make you good at running this business. It's just that you want the basic skills that are handed out in that class. Assuming you have completed that, you can use the same concepts with stuff like marketing courses, entrepreneurial studies, organizational behavior or strategy, whatever you want. There are 1,000 different courses you could take, but I'd start with managerial accounting, go from there. The third and arguably most enjoyable piece of this self-administered fitness business MBA would be fitness tourism, and this is a concept that I was introduced to by Mark Fisher actually a couple years back, where I asked him how he goes about structuring his travel outside of all the speaking engagements he lines up, and he said he likes to indulge in constant fitness tourism where he's getting into other gyms and seeing how they operate. And I think this is an immensely valuable piece of the learn by doing puzzle. And if you speak to any of our former interns, what they'll typically say is that they learned more in a 3, 4, 5-month internship than they did over 3, 4, even 5 years of school. And that's kind of how I feel after I spend an entire day in another gym, where I rarely, if ever, feel like it wasn't a hugely valuable use of my time, where I walk away with tons of concepts to apply once I get back to my own space. And there is a key piece to this, and that is that you shouldn't go into a brand new gym looking for insights. And it's not because they're all universally bad or struggling, but they haven't really established a track record. So my rule is that if I'm going to go and spend a whole day observing at another person's gym and trying to take away useful information, I typically target the ones who have survived the duration of their first lease, because staying in business is hard. And being able to sign that second lease, to me, that is kind of the moment that you can say, this business has done it. This has made it. We're going to extend for another 3, maybe 5 years, whatever it is. It doesn't mean that you need to call up a gym and ask them what cycle they're in their lease. But you can assume that if they haven't been doing it for more than 3 years, and usually 5, then maybe there's a more established business out there that you could take a look at. And once you do get to a facility and you're engaging in some fitness tourism, you're an observational guest, a fly on the wall in someone's space, I want you to look at it more from the perspective of a business person than a strength coach, because your inclination is going to be to ask 1,000 questions about their assessment strategy or their programming philosophy or whatever it may be relating to their clients and athletes. But there's so much that you can learn if you get in there with a business-minded approach. But that might involve you sitting in the waiting area and just being a little bit of a sponge. Maybe you're looking to see how clients are greeted. Maybe you're seeing how they answer phones. Maybe you are observing how they attack the difficult process of asking for money. Maybe it's seeing if they've standardized how the staff greets walk-ins or who handles giving the pitch. Does everybody do it? Do they utilize consistent language? How are clients scheduling future sessions? There's so many different things that you can see, and the really polished gyms do a nice job of making this readily available and visible without you having to ask, because their systems run smoothly and flawlessly right in front of your eyes. What I would say is just don't make the mistake of getting sucked too much into talking fitness when you have this opportunity to see a finely tuned machine operating once you're in the gym. So let's recap this concept of a self-administered fitness business MBA. First, I want you to always be learning. So that means consuming information from outside of this little bubble of a fitness industry that we all live in. Try and stray away from the same dozen or so people we all follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and learn from the likes of the bigger businesses, the Fortune 500s of the world, the people who are administering concepts that would absolutely be applicable here in a gym setting, but might fall outside of your immediate line of sight. Next, I want you to strongly consider getting into a classroom-based learning environment where you can pick up some accounting skills or some marketing skills and basic business concepts, but specifically where you're being held accountable to your output in the learning process, because there need to be some metrics as to whether or not you're making progress. And that might be homework, that might be accounting, that might be group work, but it's nice to have somebody else holding you accountable to what you're getting done in this learning environment. The third, and probably my favorite piece, the most enjoyable, is engaging in a little bit of fitness tourism. So get out and learn from the other business owners who have been doing it for a while, have demonstrated that they've been through the highs and lows, and you can see how their organization operates, cherry pick what you like, bring it back with you, and put it to use, much like my recommendation a couple weeks back regarding emulating the internship programs that you find to be the most effective and efficient, because imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I want to thank Kirk for posing a question in the open forum. I love it when I get concept ideas from you guys as far as content that you'd like to see in future weeks, future videos, and you can continue to post them in that context, or you can send them to me directly, whatever you like. But please do keep them coming, and I'll see you guys next week.